Welcome everybody to our Q&A bonus session. Drop in the chat box in one of your words how you're feeling tonight, what's alive in you. And we're gonna dive into some really juicy, some deep questions, some mind-provoking questions, and expanding questions. So I'm really, really excited. So welcome if you're joining in. All right. And we will do a little kind of meditation activation at the end as well. So stay till the end, or if you can't, then watch the recording. That's always available. And I've got so many questions. Some of them are a little bit repetitive. Some questions were like super long, and you sent me your whole stories, which I love and appreciate. And I love reading all your feedback and how it touched you and your life stories. For obvious reasons, I try to make it super short for these questions. So I kind of have shortlisted some questions, over 20 questions. We'll see how many of them we'll be able to cover, but I'll make sure that I'll cover the essence of it all. In some questions, I've added some details because that gives a little bit of context. Other questions are a little bit more vague. But even if you haven't asked any questions, I truly believe that you'll be able to resonate and you'll find yourself in these women, because we're actually all very similar. Sometimes we think we are uniquely flawed, we're just going through this pain alone, but a lot of us do it. We go through this pain, and actually when we share it and we see that other people are going through similar journey, it kind of lightens up the load, so it's easier to go through it. And I can truly reassure you that when you do this deep inner work, really hold space for yourself and find that courage and light and self-love and self-acceptance, it does get better. And even life, gives you certain situations in life. Actually, it gets even better when you learn how to alchemize it into pleasure. Even like today, I woke up and I just felt a little bit tender, and I just decided to breathe through it and actually like channel it. And you can use that energy, like whatever emotion is there, you can channel it to your work, to even more pleasure, to like opening your heart, because everything is a gift if we choose to see it that way. And then you almost become so courageous and so unstoppable that you're not afraid that, well, I feel good today, but what if tomorrow life is going to give me something? Oh yeah, maybe tomorrow life is going to give me a new challenge, and I'm going to take that and use it as fuel for my mission, for purpose, for expansion, for pleasure, for more goodness. So this is our power. Our power is not circumstantial. It's not like when I practice the manifestation steps, I get everything that what I want, and then life is great. Yes, that happens a lot if it's in alignment with your path to get these manifestations. But even if it doesn't, you can still take it and alchemize it. And so many of you also have already joined the homecoming program. Super excited. We're starting next Monday. So there we'll dive even deeper how to take all these challenges and alchemize them, not into just neutral energy, but also into pleasure, into purpose, into your drive, into fuel. So it just gets better and better and better. So excited. And basically, just because I wanted more people to join, I have extended the offer until tomorrow. So at first there was like some technical issues, and then I tuned in and I thought, because this is a launch, I just want more people to join, because right now it's just for community, and this program is about to stay for years. So later I'll use different ways to promote it, but right now for community, it's it's 333 until tomorrow, Tuesday. And then it's going to go to 555, and then original price 888. So if you are still wondering, maybe on the fence, maybe looking for a sign, maybe this is your sign. And if not, that's okay. You can join anytime, next year, a few years, who knows. All right. So the questions, I have, as I said, shortlisted the questions, and I have looked at them, but I've not tried to answer them, because if I try, then I'll be like trying to remember now. And usually my wisdom comes out when it's live. So it's channeled. Sometimes I surprise myself. So I know the questions, but I'm going to answer them live, and this is how it works the best. All right, so without any further ado, let's dive into it. Okay, so when you know you're in a struggle mode or victim mode, how to get out of it? So a lot of you may relate, and sometimes, self-development advice tells you, don't be a victim, don't be in a victim mode, just take your power. But when you are really feeling victimized by other people or the universe, it's really hard and it kind of doesn't work. And even if your mind, you say like, yeah, I'm not going to be a victim. But when you feel like someone overstepped your boundaries, or someone really hurt you, or life is unfair because of what's happening in your personal life or in the world, it's kind of hard. So what I found, trying not to be a victim is not working, because you still have that victimhood coming up. So what is more practical and more effective is really recognizing that part in yourself that is victimized, and knowing that being a victim is natural. It's part of being human. We have all been victims at some point in our lives, because when human babies are born, we're literally incapable of taking care of ourselves. We're totally dependent, 100% dependent on our parents or caretakers for food, for shelter, for warmth, for everything. So we are literally little victims. And when something gets triggered, we are going into that kind of mode, into that memory in our psyche. So we all have victimhood installed in us. And if you're being a victim, doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you, you don't understand something about reality, you're not powerful enough. No, it's just, okay, this is coming up. So in that moment, you need to be that little victim that you already are, and also your conscious, mature adult self. And your mature adult self has to hold space for that victim. Because when you were a little baby, you couldn't protect yourself, you couldn't take care of yourself. But now you're a grown-up woman, so you can. And this is how you heal that victim. So really hold that victim close to your heart and say, okay, what's coming up for you? Okay, you feel that life is unfair. I see you. I honor you. I can feel your pain. I see what you're going through. I've got you. And it's the same principle of holding space. And I've also got a few other questions. So what is that space holding? I think I get it, what you explained in the first session, but like, what is it really? How does it look in practicality? So this is how it looks like. Anything comes up, any trigger, and you feel, for example, victim, which usually when we're triggered, that victim comes up. So in real time, you just really notice, acknowledge it. You don't argue with the victim. You don't shame the victim, because that's what normally happens, especially if you're on self-development path, if you're being conscious. A lot of people start shaming the inner victim. And when you shame something, any part of yourself, what you're doing, you're actually pushing it down into the unconscious, into the shadows, and that victim doesn't go anywhere. But when we're not aware of it, then we project it onto other people, like, oh, she's being such a victim, or that person, like, you notice what all the wrongs that other people are doing, or you just feel victimized, like you emphasize it and you feel more and more victim. But actually, when you own it and you say, yeah, there's a part of me that it feels victimized, but I'm going to take care of myself. And you ask, like, what do you need? I just need, you to stand up for me. I need to have that conversation. Okay. And then you go and courageously have a conversation. Sometimes I just need rest. I just need to sleep. I need to regulate my nervous system. I need to relax. Then you give that to yourself. But the most important part is not to shame any parts of yourself, not to argue with them, not try to push them away, but just embrace it all. Because you are both a victim and a powerful woman, and someone who's charming, and someone who's, productive, and someone who's maybe lazy. It's like all parts of us. We are multidimensional beings. So that's whatever comes up in the moment. It's about just really tuning in to yourself and acknowledging, like, what's coming up? Where is it coming from? What do you need right now? And just holding space, not arguing, not pushing it away, just being there and asking, what does that part need? And always acknowledging, and not just sitting and holding space so that the pain goes away, because that doesn't work. That's like trying to fool yourself. But just holding space merely for the one and only reason that it's there. It's coming up, means that's why you're holding space, because you love yourself. Just how you would hold space for a little child who's in pain that you really, really love. Maybe you have a child, maybe you can imagine it. Same for yourself, that inner child, inner baby. Especially if it's like this really victimized part comes up, which is kind of your infant self, which you can't even reason or logic with. Then you just really need to hold, and sometimes just really like rock yourself back and forth and like really put something warm around you if you're cold, maybe take a hot bath, maybe have some tea, just anything that, you know, soothes you. So that's how you hold space, and that's how you address your inner victim or any parts that come up. All right, then the next question was, how do you know when you are gaslighting yourself? As in, when do you realize it? Sometimes you realize it only in hindsight, when you look back, like, ooh, of course I knew it. Of course my intuition knew all along. But you kind of convinced yourself. I've definitely done that. I don't know if you've ever done that, when like you kind of know, but you want to fool yourself. But you kind of try to convince yourself because your mind wants one thing, your heart says another thing, maybe your body wants something else. So like you're a little bit confused. So like you take one narrative and then you run with that. I've done that in dating, where like my body is like, no, I'm not really feeling it, but it sounds so good on paper. Maybe I don't know something. And then in that moment, I literally sometimes don't know. And then you go for it. And then in hindsight, they're like, of course I knew. So that used to happen a lot. But now what I do, instead of like just trying to take one part and run with one narrative and try to find which one is truth, I just accept that all of it is truth. All different parts are coming up. There's a part of me that feels like, I'm not really attracted. But maybe there's a wiser part that knows that maybe I'm not attracted because my pattern is to be attracted to people who are not that good for me, and maybe who like just create that intensity because it's wound bonding, right? Like that kind of wounded place, which can feel really dramatic and beautiful, and like that creates beautiful sexual experiences. But that's not what I want in the long run. And that could be happening. And maybe there's another part that just knows, or maybe there's another part who just wants intimacy and connection, and it doesn't matter if it's not a long-term person. Maybe there's another part that just feels that even if it's not right, but maybe there is some sort of lesson, or maybe that will trigger something in me. So when you actually acknowledge all these different parts and don't try to figure out which one is the right one, that's when you stop gaslighting yourself. And when you're just super, super honest, and yeah, there's a part of me that's like an ego, and there's like an ego desire. Maybe that guy sounds so great on paper, and like maybe that's my ego wants that. And ego is not the enemy. If we shame the ego, then we pretend that we don't have the ego, that actually ego has more power over you. But when you accept it, yeah, there's an ego part that actually wants this. Okay, that's one option. That's allowed if I want to. There's another part that my soul wants that expansion. Their soul wants that. That's another option. None of them are right or wrong. It's just they have different consequences, different results. So when I actually allow all of it to be, and then just say like, okay, these will have different consequences. What are the consequences? Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I can guess. But then when you're super honest, then you accept, okay, there will be consequences, and I'm still going to take that step. So there's no more gaslighting, because gaslighting means like you know something, but you lie to yourself, or you pretend that you don't know. So that is my answer. And in general, even if you're not gaslighting yourself, just that whole concept that truth is complex. And there's all of the parts playing out. And when people used to shame me, or could hear other people shame other people, like, oh, you're contradicting yourself. Yeah, because I'm a human being and we all have different parts. And when you try to be super consistent and just have one truth, That's when you gaslight yourself. And that's when you're not honest, because then you are so committed to some sort of narrative and not what's alive in you. And we're not just human beings, we're human becomings. Like we're always becoming something, we're always changing and moving. We're not so much as a rock, we're more like a river or a kiss, and we're an event. And there's a saying that we humans are an event because it's always changing. It's always like, it's not a thing. So just accepting now that we're always moving. Like who I was this morning, I think that Alice in Wonderland said, like, I knew who I was this morning, but I don't anymore. So it's kind of the same concept. All right. Then next question was about twin flames. I don't know if it's relevant for a lot of people. Some of you may know what that is. I'm definitely not an expert in that, but twin flames is this whole concept that there's an essence of you, and part of you is in your body and part of it is in another body. And then when you meet your twin flame, someone who like activates your spiritual awakening, and there's so much information around it. At some point I got into this rabbit hole and I convinced myself that there's someone who really activated that. That was my twin flame. That was kind of years ago. And is that true? I don't know. Is that not true? I also don't know. But that's not the most important part. The question was that I've been reading about it for 5 months, getting even more confused. And how do I manage my energetic field, because that's affected by the other person, and whatever they're feeling, I'm feeling that. And my answer is that this is actually giving your power away. And since then, since the first time I've discovered this concept, I've met quite a few people who could fit into that same kind of concept. But I no longer think that is twin flame. I just think that someone activates your wound. And I talked about the wound throughout the masterclasses. So if you have an abandonment wound and you meet someone who on some unconscious level reminds you of maybe your mom or your dad or something, and activates that wound and that kind of part in your psyche that is stuck in time. For example, if you've never been fully seen and accepted for who you are, right? And you meet someone who really fancies you, but they don't really see you and accept you, then you may get into this kind of cycle, like, I need to make them see me and love me and appreciate me. And that was all happening unconsciously. And that becomes so intense whenever there's wound bonding. That can be super, super intense. But again, it's giving your power away, or giving your power away to a concept or to another person, or thinking that someone else's energy can influence yours. Yes, that's true, but this is where boundaries come in. And we can actually practice energetic hygiene and really cleanse our own energetic field, even using shamanic tools like sage and Palo Santo. Of course, when the wound is so intense, little sage is not going to help it, but that also signals your brain, your subconscious mind, like, this is my intention. I want to set the boundaries. So using these tools as a permission slip to do that. And I would ask, no matter whether it is twin flame or not, I can't confirm or disprove this concept. The question is that person good for you? Is that person good for your nervous system? Are they good for your heart, your soul? Are they with you? Are they holding space? Or are they just someone who activated and they're no longer there? Are they even aware of it? Because in this whole concept, there's always usually the runner and chaser dynamic. So usually the person who would be asking the question is the chaser, because the runner wouldn't even know probably about this concept. So ask yourself, are you really holding space for yourself, or are you giving the power away? And what wound did that person activate in you? And if that person is not holding space for you, if they're not there for you, then it's your job to do it. And trying to get them to see you or to trying to catch them is just gonna prolong the process, and it's gonna cause you more pain. And it's up to you to take that power back. So usually it does awaken the abandonment or rejection wound, or that wound of not being seen. And no matter how much you chase, if that person is not seeing you I'm sorry to say that, but they're probably not capable of seeing you. And no matter how great you are, how much you try to tell them, it's not, never seen people change the dynamic really within my life and other people's situations. So maybe it's just time to accept it and grieve if you're ready. And if not, you can continue. But this is kind of my interpretation of it and my experience with it. And it almost feels like a part of your soul is missing. And in shamanism, trauma is called soul loss, and that's for good reason. So it's the same thing, just like different vocabulary, because you have given that power away, or like part of your soul or your psyche is stuck in time where the wound happened or where the trauma happened. And then it's like your psyche is not trying to punish you. Your mind is not trying to punish you. It's always trying to heal itself. So it actually attract these situations, would magnetize them. So you can actually kind of replay the same pattern, but have a different outcome. And that applies not just in romantic relationships, not twin flames, but a lot of times we get stuck in the loop and it feels like I'm trying to get out of it, whether it's with finances or relationships or friendships or career or anything. And we keep replaying the same pattern. Even if you consciously think you're not, you end up in the same place. And again, it's not because life or universe is trying to punish you. It's merely because you try to repeat it. It's called repetition compulsion, to get a different outcome. And you can get a different outcome if you remain really, really conscious and hold space for all these parts and don't abandon yourself and really, really present. That's how you heal. And I've healed a lot of my wounds and changed so many of my patterns. And even in relationships, like things that used to get me now, just I see through, it doesn't even, I don't want that anymore. But if you keep abandoning yourself when you go into this loop, then you prolong it. Sometimes you can re-traumatize yourself and you just get stuck. But there's always, always, always a way out. All right, let's go to the next question. Okay, so I've been following my body and following the human design, which made me quit my job as my body was saying no. And now I feel lost. What kind of job do I want? What job do I want to look for? And even if I even want a job, but I do feel like I want to do something with my time. And after having 6 years of maternity leave, I don't know what I can do, what I'm good at. And I've also feel like I've aged. How do I live with an open heart and joy after my reality has changed drastically after marriage and having kids? So people may relate to that, even if you haven't been on maternity leave. Maybe you're not really happy in your job. Maybe something feels off, but you don't know what's at next level, how that looks like. So I would always say start with really taking your power back, because in that question there are more details. It's almost like, well, I don't know what I want. Other people are taking more time, like my family is taking my time. I've aged, I don't look as well, I'm not up to date or anything. So there's a lot of like this like victim-y kind of flavor. Again, we're not here to shame the victim, but I could sense there's like the power is not in that person's hands. So the first step would be just to really retrieve all these lost parts of the soul, of their power, and really get centered, and then start listening to yourself. And I cannot answer the question like, what is your next job? What you should do? But what I've seen in my own life is about when you really, really recenter yourself and start listening to these little nudges, you will be guided. So again, it's about surrendering and listening, but not surrendering like, well, I'm going to surrender until I get my answer. Okay, 5 minutes into surrender, where's my dream career? That doesn't work because you're not surrendering. And again, surrender is a paradox. It's an interesting concept, and I've talked for the whole hour in the third session about it. But here it's about really getting really clear on what you want. And I know in that question, there's like, I don't know what I want. Yes, you don't know what you want exactly, but I'm sure you know a few things that you want to work maybe in a nice team with humans who are kind, that work that is creative, that gives you good income, that you feel really relaxed and nourished by it and not stressed out. So something that is good for the nervous system. And just list the things that you already know, at least 5 things. I'm pretty sure most people would agree, unless, you know, some people are addicted to stress and want a stressful job, then that's available as well. But you don't need to know all the details, but get clear on what you want. And I've guided through this process quite a few of my clients throughout the years. I'm like, oh my God, I found this job, this photography job in restaurants when someone had a little baby, so she couldn't work like normal hours because her husband was at work. But then she found this work after hours where she would just have to go and try different foods and take photos and post it on social media and write reviews. And it was like, I didn't even know these jobs existed, but because she wrote all the things that would involve creativity and photography and being social and other things, and that job didn't even exist. She didn't even know about it. But when you get so clear on what you want, it's really important, not on what you don't want, because if you say like, I don't want stress, I don't want bad boss, I don't want that. So the universe is getting a call. Stress, bad boss, okay, coming up. So we need to be careful on what we wish for and how we kind of like shape our language. So really focus on what you do want. Make a list and then surrender. Like, universe, surprise me, guide me. And then you'll get inspiration. Maybe it's not like surprise me, guide me. I'm just going to stay on a couch and just wait until someone knocks on the door and offers me this job. That doesn't really happen. But instead, just feel if it's an inspiration to look at some website, maybe to call an old colleague, just network, meet more people, talk about what you do want. Because when you start talking, people are like, oh, I'm actually looking for a photographer. I'm looking for that person. I'm looking for that person. So you open yourself up to magic. But if you feel like, I don't know what I want, I don't know what I want, I don't know what I want, then you focus on what you don't want and what you don't know. And then you're closing up all the opportunities. And that applies to a lot of other things. When you're manifesting, you have to get specific, not in terms of specific, like it needs to be red and round and this one, just in general, like it needs to be feel kind or feel great. It's good for my nervous system and so on. So like not specifics in terms of like closing off the other opportunities, but just really tuning in what you really want. Okay. How do I trust my inner guidance and my true calling? How do I know what is the right decision? I need to figure out what I want to do next in my life, how to make money, where to live. Meditations, as I'm asking myself, doesn't really help. I have trouble hearing my inner guidance and trusting it. Is there any other way? I'm very brave and have made a lot of decisions in my life without much thinking, and it hasn't always worked out. So I have a hard time trusting myself. So kind of the answer is in the question. So it's that like there was a lot of fear coming up, because if you just say like, I'm going to be brave and I'm just going to do it, but you don't really center yourself, then you may make decisions that lead you into something that doesn't feel really good. And even that, I'm sure like you can find a way how it actually still teaches you the lesson. But I would just always tune in and just, again, not run with one narrative, but check in. Okay, which part of me wants this? Which part of me wants that? And that person was also saying like, do I want to live in US when it's sunny, or in Europe where my family is? I feel torn, and like, what do I do with my life? And all these questions. And there's like so much fear and so much anxiety, like no groundedness. So first step is to really ground yourself. Get in your center and then recognize, okay, there's a part of me that wants to be with family. There's a part of me that wants to be in the sunny climate. There's a part of me that's holding space for all these parts and starting like accepting and integrating them. And when you do that, that's where you can actually start hearing that inner guidance, and not just like hear one voice and run with it, because there's all these different parts. But the more you actually learn how to distinguish that ego voice and the soul voice, the easier it gets, because we also get a lot of guidance from ego, or from that part that is trying to avoid and run away. And how do you distinguish what is like your soul or your higher self or like divine intelligence and the ego? For me, it's the urgency in the ego and non-attachment in the soul, because ego is temporary. Ego is gonna die with your personality in this life. The soul is eternal. That's how I see it. So the ego was like, this must happen now. You need to reach out now. There's like urgency. You need to do it now. That's the only opportunity. No, there's never only one opportunity. There's like infinite possibilities all the time, everywhere. And the soul voice is usually just a bit more quiet. It's like, yeah, this is the right path. But if you don't take it, you have another decade, you've got another lifetime. There's no rush. So soul usually just whispers, and this is like kind, gentle voice. And ego is this urgency, like, I need to do it now. If you don't do it now, you're gonna die, or something bad's gonna happen, and you'll never get what you want. So just recognize if there's like scarcity, lack, urgency, it's probably not your higher self. If it's like gentleness, it's love, like, yeah, this is the right way, but if you don't take it, you'll still be fine. There's another opportunity. That kind of feels different on your nervous system. So recognize that. And again, not trying run with just one narrative, not trying to get it right. Because also, to me, self-trust is not just trusting that I'll always figure out the way that gets my way. So about like trusting and having faith and trust in the universe, surrendering, doesn't mean that I trust that everything is always going to be my way. That I'll always get what I want. Things will be, according to my plan and schedule. No, trust and faith means I trust that no matter what, I'll be okay. And that trust doesn't come just from some sort of outside power, but it comes from my relationship with myself. I trust that no matter what happens, whether I get my way or don't get my way, I won't abandon myself. I will take care of myself. Even if my nervous system will be agitated and activated and there will be like emotions running through my body, I have the tools to process them. I've been in the darkest dark. I've had panic attacks. Like I knew I'll survive through them. I now have the tools. I know like I'll be fine. And even if I die, so be it. Although I don't really believe I will be. I won't die from bad emotions or disappointment or when things don't go my way. But actually, like, even if I do, like, well, that's my time. And if it's not my time, it's not my time. And I just feel like today is not my time. So I just trust, and like whatever tomorrow brings, I don't mean like, oh, whatever brings, I'm so non-attached, I'm so stoic, like doesn't matter. Like, no, I may be on my knees and really struggling and in pain, but I know one thing, I won't abandon myself and I'll move through it. And I have trust that everything is always here to help me. And I've installed that belief using my own belief changing process like years ago, that everything is always working out in my way and for the benefit of all. Doesn't mean in all moments, but if something doesn't go my way, I immediately think, can't wait to see the good that's going to come out of it. Something greater must be around the corner. And is that a scientific fact? Probably not. But I choose to see life this way, and I'm always looking for opportunities, always looking for lessons. And that's why like I extract wisdom from any situation, good and bad. And when you see and experience life this way, it works in your favor because I'm working in my favor. So like life is a reflection of me. The way I treat myself, that's how life treats me. And this means, again, that we have that power. Okay. Thank you for masterclass. I realized most of my life I wasn't holding space for myself or listening to myself. Now that I am, my inner parts are saying to leave the job, cut ties with half of the people I know. And basically, should I surrender with all those decisions, which would change my life? Should I jump and do that free falling, trusting all those parts of voices, or should I do it step by step? So there's no universal answer for this. And every single situation will be different. And every single person is different. So for me, I love to just make that leap of faith and trust. For some people, it feels so unsafe. The nervous system gets so agitated that it's not good for them. So you need to really acknowledge this part, that there's a part of me that wants to cut ties with these people. There's another part of me that is afraid of loneliness and disappointment, or that I will intimidate these people, or they'll be really pissed off with me. And both of them are valid. You don't need to shame any of these parts. And then just honor where you are. What would feel good? What would feel aligned? Maybe like, yeah, I'm ready. It feels really aligned for me to just cut those ties. Maybe I will with some people, but not other people. So the real decision needs to feel like a relief. If it feels like you're pushing yourself, then it's premature, like it's too early. So even when people look at some of my life decisions, like leaving my job over 10 years ago and like selling everything, starting my business, some people feel like if I start listening to myself, I'll have to do it. Yes, if you're ready, and no, if you're not. Because for me, the pain of staying in that old job was way bigger than the pain of a risk of like taking that leap of faith. So you need to see which one is more painful. Is it more painful to live out of alignment? Or is it more painful to lose these friends? Is it more painful to stay in a job that doesn't actually nourish your soul? Or is it too painful to be in this unknown where nothing is guaranteed? And then you honor where you are. So maybe it's finding some sort of middle ground where you temporarily find a job that feels better. Maybe it's not your dream business, it's not your dream ultimate career, but that feels better, and that's a stepping stone. Or maybe you find some job that just like pays loads of money, and maybe you just make a contract with yourself. I'm going to work there for 6 months, earn that much money, go traveling for a year, and I'll figure it out. Maybe that's an option. But there's always infinite possibilities. It's not just this or that. There's like, just need to take a step back. Like, what else could be possible? What would feel good? And asking a question like, what would feel like a relief? Because the right decision needs to feel like a relief, not like a burden. If it feels like a burden, if it feels too much, then maybe not yet. Maybe you just need to either grow more resilience, build that relationship with yourself and that trust with a higher power, the universe. Or maybe you just need to take that middle ground. So there's no universal answer for everyone, or even for that one person, because for me, there'll be different advice for like different areas of life and different situations, and where I was 10 years ago versus where I'm now. So it's like, it always keeps changing, but you need to keep checking in with yourself. And again, seeing all the parts that are coming up. And sometimes we think it's either this or that, but there's always a third way, and many ways in the middle. So look for that relief. Okay. Another question, which there's like a long story, but I've been with a husband for 10 years. We tried to get a divorce a few times, but every time we still come back together and realize how much we love each other. I grew so much out of this experience. But right now I also feel it's not, basically either conflict or something is not fully aligned. So should I stay in the relationship or should I leave? I would never be able to answer that question for anyone else. So again, the same principle applies, just seeing all the different parts that wants to stay, that doesn't want to stay. And I don't know the dynamic with that person, but I think it's always a good idea to be with someone who is respectful. And if someone doesn't respect you, then maybe it's not aligned. Although from that message, I didn't feel that, but you need to really check in with yourself. What is it that you want, and do the lessons that you're getting from it and the benefit that you're getting from it outweigh the pain that you get in that relationship? So I don't know. And even if you told all your story, like we spent 5 hours sitting together and you told all the details, I wouldn't know. No one else wouldn't know. And no one else could ever make a decision for another person. So again, it's just about being really honest and not being afraid to look at the uncomfortable parts, because, you know, when you really face everything in yourself and get honest with yourself and know that no matter what decision I'll make, I'll be okay. So again, the same kind of principle. Okay, another question. I'm worried about what other people will think if I start doing something new. I think it was about the business. If I can't do it perfectly, maybe I shouldn't do it at all. It hurts and paralyzes me, the idea that other people will criticize me. So it's that fear of criticism, really. So you have to accept it, that yes, there is a fear and there is a possibility that other people will criticize you and think like, what is she doing? That's not perfect. Or even if you are doing it perfect and no one says it, that's anything, in your head, you may still think maybe they are criticizing me. So that is a possibility. And I'm not here to convince you that like, no one will criticize you. Just follow your dream and you'll be great. Most of the time that is the case because you always learn the things, but maybe it won't be. Like, again, I don't even know what that business is about. I don't know you. I don't know anyone. But that fear is always there. When I started my business, of course I had that fear. But again, the fear of the pain of not doing it was way stronger for me. Doing something that is not according to my soul mission felt more painful and more scary than actually stepping into, you know, doing what I do now. And of course, it took me years to like deal with my own doubts and my own fears and fear of criticism and criticizing myself. So that was a journey. And back then I didn't have the mentors that I do now. I didn't have the tools. I didn't know what I was doing. Like 10 years ago, coaching was not a thing as it is now. There's so many coaches. Like I didn't know a single coach. I didn't have anyone even in my circle. I was just 25-year-old life coach. And, you know, and then I had clients who were in the 60s. So sometimes I'll be wondering like, why are they paying me money for like life coaching in the 60s? I'm just 25, but like people saw the wisdom, and then I still surrendered and I went for it and I built my business, and now it's been 10 years. But of course, in the beginning, I dealt with a lot of fears. So if you wait until the fears go away, you may wait until the next lifetime, probably. So you just have to accept that, yeah, the fear may be here, and you don't have to get rid of fear. That's a thing. Whatever I'm like, if I'm doing new things, and especially the bigger things, there's always fear, and I'm not even trying to get rid of it. The whole point is that your desire needs to be at least a little bit bigger. At least needs to be 51 desire, 49 fear, and then you're good, and then you can walk with it. So it's not about getting rid of fear, it's about holding space for it and walking with it. Another question: if I get a lot of money doing what I love, I may feel awkward around other people. They may be intimidated or I'll be judged. It will create distance between me and them. Some people work so hard and don't have enough money. It's unfair. That is true. That paradigm exists. Like, yeah, people don't have enough money, and that's sad. But is the fact that you're not earning money helping these people? So you're not intimidating others. How is that helpful? Because if you really do care about other people and really want to help them, isn't it better to actually earn that money and then use it to help them? Or even if you don't want to help them, but like, how does you earning less help other people who are struggling? A question about acceptance. I find it easy to let go and surrender when it comes to big life questions, but when it comes to daily anxiety, more down to earth matters, I often feel resistance to let it go. For example, I need to have a conversation about something with my spouse, but I keep procrastinating. Just a simple conversation. Do I really need higher power to support me? If you're struggling with it, then probably yes. The same principles applies to big things or small things. Because if small things, if it's really not important and if it doesn't really matter, then there wouldn't be procrastination. So there's still probably procrastination because it's uncomfortable. And the more you become comfortable holding all your emotions, like that discomfort, and yeah, these conversations about these like sticky topics can feel really edgy. But if you really hold space for yourself and learn to sit with the discomfort, it's going to be easier and easier. And you can actually even use the same principle of surrendering. So if it's a problem, then, you can use the same principles of surrendering. And if it's not a problem, then it's not a problem. What books would you recommend? And she said, like, I find most self-development books kind of lame. So yeah, so there's a few books that I found really impactful for me. So one is like a super short book, but I've read it probably 20 times. And it's like, it takes just a few hours. And I've given so many copies, probably over 20 copies to different people. So it's called The Man Who Tapped the Secrets of the Universe by Glenn Clark. Then another one is Complete Reader by Neville Goddard, which is a compilation of 10 books. Then another one is Existential King by Carolyn Elliott. King as in K-I-N-K. K, sorry, not king, not like a crowned king, but king as in sexual king. But it's not about sexual things, it's about existential king. How can we actually alchemize our pain into pleasure? So yeah, these would be, I think, 3 books that are very useful and practical. So it's not some sort of just someone's journey, how they've gone through self-development journey and what they've discovered, but this is like the first 2 books were written in the last century, so they're quite, I don't know, they've got substance. It's not just like pop new agey things. So yeah, let me know how that goes. If anyone reads that, then yeah, send me a review. I'll be interested. Okay, have you ever thought of writing a book about all the lessons you were sharing here? Yes, I have. There was once a book kind of channeled to me when I was in Hawaii to 2019. So I've got the title, I've got the whole concept. I've not fully lived some parts of the book yet. That's why I'm not prioritizing, I'm not writing it. And right now it doesn't feel like the main priority of my life, but I'm pretty sure that I will write a book in a few years. And I've helped one of my best friends write a book, which was a process of 2 years. And it's so intense that actually scared me. So like, maybe I'll wait when I'm a bit more ready. Okay. The next question. In the second session, you mentioned that it's never about other people, it's about us and our unmet needs. How would you explain that in certain scenarios, only one specific person triggers us? It could be that I would receive advice on some random topic from multiple people and I would be okay, but then that one person offers some advice and it triggers me a lot. So I get it. And it's never about that actually person, especially if it's a trigger. It's never about what it's about. Trigger reminds us of some situation in the past, some unprocessed emotions that in that moment they get activated. So I would ask myself a question: what does it remind me of? Or how does that make me feel? Or that dynamic, what does it remind me of? Does it remind me of my mom, of my dad, or someone in my childhood? Or maybe, I don't know, that person, like, what's the intention? Maybe it triggers that you could feel they're trying to teach you, or they're not honoring you, or maybe there's something else around that person. So asking yourself, like, what is true? What is true? What is true? Like, what's really going on? What is that trigger about? Because if it's the same topic and all the other people give you advice, means like it's not about the topic. So it's just about the dynamic with that person. And yeah, so like going underneath, like, what is that about? Because if someone just giving you advice, and there's no react, then there's nothing to be triggered, then there would be no reaction. So just like the intense emotional reaction means that something's underneath. And I don't know the context, so it's hard to explain more. Okay. Another one was my child passed away 2 years ago, and with him my biggest dreams and hopes. I have restored my relationship with life, but struggling to restore the relationship with myself and my pain. How to lighten up the load. First of all, and I had a low chat with that person. I'm so sorry. I can't even imagine what that experience would feel like. I've never gone through anything like this. I've lost both of my parents, but not a child, so I don't even know. However, I can just share how I move through pain. And sometimes we feel pain, and it's not just about the situation. And sometimes something horrible like this can happen. And anyone else watching, maybe you are going through something difficult in your life. Maybe it's loss or grief or something. So the only way through is through. You can't bypass pain, especially if it's such intense like loss and grief. Like numbing it, distracting from it, it doesn't work for me. It does work for some people. I know some people turn to some substances. For me, it doesn't even work. So what does work in like the most painful situations is, again, not abandoning yourself. Really, really sitting with myself, sitting in that pain and holding that most painful, vulnerable part and saying like, yeah, even if this pain is going to stay forever, I'm still here. I'm here for you. Not that it goes away, not trying to like get rid of the pain, but I'm just here because I love myself. I trust somehow the process of life, even if I don't understand it in this moment. But holding space for that pain and being with yourself and really finding even the beauty in it. And I don't know where that person is now with the grief, but for me, it's even in the most horrible situations where you feel like your nervous system is activated, your body is in so much pain, still finding like a poem or putting a song, lighting a candle, lighting incense, just somehow bringing more beauty, because beauty is such a medicine and alchemizes that pain, and just moving through it and crying helps so much, or any purging. That's why I'm such a big fan of like moving with my emotions, because there's like ways to purge emotions, either through movement or breath or crying, or sometimes purging, physically kind of. So it's about moving with it, because when you're stuck, and pain can really paralyze, and I know when it's like the impulse is just to stay frozen, but then it's almost like forcing myself to move, to get on a yoga mat, to stretch, to move, to make sounds, to cry, to do weird animalistic anything, just like moves energy through me. And whenever we move, the emotion never stays the same. It moves, and then we feel lighter, and then there's another wave, and there's another wave, and maybe that will never go away, who knows. But if you learn how to just be okay and hold space, for me, it does get lighter, and it does get more beautiful, and it does get, I know, just find wisdom in it. I just look for wisdom. Like, what is it teaching me about human experience? What is it teaching me about pain? How can I actually not suppress that pain? Because suppressed pain doesn't go anywhere, and then we project it onto other people. And I see when people are just like so angry with no, like good reasons, triggered because they have not dealt with their pain. And I still have compassion for them sometimes when it's directed at me, which doesn't often happen, but then it's harder to have compassion. But in general, just having compassion, but knowing that if I actually use that pain for more wisdom, and actually I alchemize that into more gentleness in my heart, and then give something to other people, and like alchemize that pain into beauty. These other people don't even need to know about it, don't need to know that it's coming from pain, but like I feel pain, and by helping someone that day, like that feels a little bit lighter. So hope that helps. And again, we all move through different things in life, and I can just share what I've been through. Okay. So, got a few more minutes. What else have we got? Okay, I keep getting closer to the success in my work. That is my life purpose, but that success keeps eluding me. Last minute, end up feeling unhappy with my results. I don't understand why I can't seem to achieve my dreams. I'm already doing so much inner work, integrating all parts of me. Is it not divine timing yet? I can still sense that urgency. And I know it's a paradox to surrender, but in that question, there's like so much energy of like the opposite of surrender. It's almost like, yeah, I'm practicing, I'm holding space, but where is it? Which I know it's like, it's so tempting to do. And it's not about trying to convince yourself, like, I don't need urgency, but like, oh, just holding that space. And is it divine timing? What I found that when I'm really aligned, the divine timing happens instantly. So I would encourage just to go, even like peel off more layers and see like, what is really there? What is my lesson there? And oftentimes if something is not working, if something is not smooth, not flowing, it's because I'm ignoring some uncomfortable truth. I know in my business, when there's been like a project that kind of failed, didn't go through because my heart wasn't fully into it. I was guided to move to do something else, but then my ego was still attached to that project. So just check in, like, what is truth? Maybe ask yourself a question, maybe journal about it. Is there something that I'm avoiding? Is there something I'm like not looking at? What else is there for me to learn? So a lot of times when we get into this, it's almost like this feels like powerful, but there's a little flavor of victimhood. But I am doing all the work, but I am doing it all. But why is it still not working? So you can see like when you ask like, why is it still not working? There's a little bit of that victimhood in it. So I would just go and like, yeah, journal, like what else is there for me to see? Okay. How to deal with the fear of making important life decisions? Should I just hold space for it and let it be? Yeah, the answer is kind of in the question. You do need to just address the fear. And I talked about the fear before. So the same principles applies. Instead of pushing it away, just really seeing what is this fear about? And yeah, maybe there's a fear of, taking a risk for it not to be working. But again, it's not about trusting that everything will work out your way, but that no matter what, you will be okay. There's also a question about procrastinating, about how to stop procrastinating on the most important things in life. So it's about asking like, what's coming up? Why am I procrastinating? Because what I found, procrastination is almost never about laziness, because people think, oh, I'm just lazy. No, there's usually some sort of deeper fear. Maybe there's fear of that, there's a lot of times procrastination comes with perfectionism. So when you are a perfectionist, you are afraid to do it wrong. So you push it away, but actually doesn't solve the problem. Maybe you're not really clear on what you need to do. And I do have the whole masterclass, and now I think 90 minutes masterclass that I've done before on procrastination. So if that person is watching and if you want that masterclass, then reach out and I can arrange that for you, because it's the whole concept. There's so much going on. Okay. And then again, there was another question about decision making. Fear to make wrong decisions. So again, the same principle, just knowing that, yeah, you may make a wrong decision, but then you can always adjust. So these life decisions, it's not that they're set in stone. Usually things can be corrected. You do something, you realize, okay, that wasn't the right decision for me. What next? What next? So life is always moving, but when we try to figure that decision in our heads, that's when we get paralyzed and we get stuck. So for me, making decisions is better when I'm moving, and actually when I do something and then in the movement, when I throw myself into life, then I know. And if I just, or if I at least tune into my body, then it's better. Versus if I just try to make an important life decision in my head based on research, that doesn't always work for me. All right. I think I've answered most of the questions. Okay, last question. 5 years ago, I got very sick. I had to change jobs and eventually couldn't work at all. I've been working on my health for the last 5 years and I'm so tired. I surrendered, let go, but I'm still ill and unemployed. Your meditation revealed that I do not fully accept my condition. There are so many conflicting parts of me. Some say it's physical and I need to find a good doctor, diet, supplements. Some say that it's because of my soul is unhappy, but I don't know what to change. Please, if you have some thoughts on chronic health conditions. So I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. It's just my view, how I see life. It's not one or the other. It's both. I do believe that all health conditions come from some sort of soul condition. Why and how, a lot of times it's a mystery, but the only person who can know what's really going on is that person, by tuning in and like really tuning into the truth. Sometimes it's so deeply hidden in the shadows that that person may not know, depending on level of consciousness, on the soul journey, who that, what is going on. But it's usually both. And even if it is a soul condition, doesn't mean that you just need to do energy healing and that's enough. Sometimes it needs to address physically, because there's no separation. Your physical body is a projection of your soul in this dimension, in this 3D reality. So it's not separate. So I do take supplements and eat healthy, and it's not enough just like my soul is so happy and so aligned, like I can just eat fried food. Like it's not the case. I'm really looking after my human body. But if I'm just eating healthy and living so according not to my values and ignoring my soul's calling, then I would still probably develop some sort of condition or something. And I have had health conditions in the past, and it was always telling me that something was now not aligned, either a relationship or I was like some wound was coming up. There's always an energetic reason. I cannot tell energetic reasons for other people. This is not what I do. I can only tell it for myself. And my understanding and my kind of mission is to always guide people back to themselves. And that's why the more your awareness grows, the more shadow work you do, the more parts of yourself you integrate, and the safer you feel with yourself, the more you can see these things. Because why these things are hiding in the shadows? Because they are shamed. So when you have shame, and when you have these unprocessed emotions, and when you're so uncomfortable looking at them, so you suppress them, then of course your mind will hide things from yourself, because you are afraid that you will judge yourself and criticize yourself. But the safer space you are for yourself, the safer it is to see these parts. And I can just see now, I've developed this relationship with myself that no matter what my part, like any parts come up, sometimes the initial reaction from the past is like, that's like bad. But like, oh no, but it's okay. Yeah, it's coming from a wounded place. It's not my, fault, or it's not anyone else's fault that I have this wound, but this is what happened. But now it's my responsibility. I'm like, okay, you're allowed to be here. So again, like integrating these parts. And the more you do this work, the easier and easier it gets. All right, so this is kind of the end of our official Q&A session. You can see one more question. Hi, Osha. Could you talk a little more about how the homecoming course will work? Are there going to be live sessions like this one where we'll log in certain time and recordings? Great. Thank you very much for the question. So this is a pre-recorded course. So it's an 8-week course, but every week, every Monday, a new lesson will be released. So you do it at your own pace, and there's a meditation is also recorded. There's a workbook, so you do it whenever you want, and you can always do it again and again and again and repeat it as many times as you want. So that is how the course is going to go. So if you bought it or if you will buy the course, then on the 24th, you'll get an email with the login details. You log in onto the website and you will watch it. Could you please repeat the books you recommended? Yes. So the man, maybe I'll just type in the man who tapped The Secrets of the Universe by Glenn Clark. Complete Reader by Neville Goddard, and Existential King by Caroline Elliott. Yes. So if you have more questions about the homecoming program, let me know. Also, next spring, I'll be adding some bonus modules. So if you join now, it's all going to be free. All right. So we're going to do a final little activation, meditation. So if you just want to close your eyes and get really comfortable. Yay. See you in the homecoming program. Okay. And just drop into this moment. And just allow yourself to relax, knowing that for the next few minutes, you don't need to do anything. There's nowhere else to go, nothing to do. Just allow yourself to drop a little bit deeper and deeper. Just if there's still any tension anywhere in your body, allow that tension to simply melt away. And we're going to go on a beautiful, magical journey. Just imagine yourself now walking down the path somewhere in nature where you feel really relaxed. There's beauty around you. And with the curiosity and open heart, you feel called to walk forward. And you keep walking. And with every single step, you feel even more relaxed. You can feel your belly relaxing and breathing becoming longer and deeper. That's right. And you keep walking down the path and you enter the forest. It's a beautiful, magical forest. Maybe you can see the details, maybe you can sense it, feel it, or just know that it's there. Either way, it's absolutely perfect. And you keep walking down this path. And you start seeing some magical creature sitting on a trunk. You come closer, you sit down next to her. And you can feel so much warmth and kindness radiating from this old lady. She's old and gray and has so much wisdom. You can tell that she knows the secrets of the universe, of this life. She knows what you don't know. And she reveals her face to you, and you can see in more detail. That's actually, looks like it's you, just many, many years, many decades into the future. So it's that future self, old and gray, who has all the answers, so much wisdom. And she's radiating pure light and goodness. And just for a moment, allow her Allow her energy to kind of penetrate your body, and allow yourself to feel that loving kindness radiating from her. And in a moment, you're going to ask her, what is one thing that you need to know today? One piece of advice. And allow her to speak. And if there's any more questions you want to ask her, maybe some guidance for the decisions that you need to make today, or anything else you need to know, go ahead and ask. Beautiful. So thank her for her wisdom. And she extends her hand and gives you a parting gift. Have a look what that gift is. And see if there's anything else she wants to tell you or show you. So with gratitude in your heart, you get up and start working back. This new wisdom and a gift. Keep coming back and back. And eventually you come back into your body, into the here and now. Just like you were 5 minutes ago, just a little bit wiser. And knowing that this part is always in you. We don't just hold the wounded parts and the painful parts or victim parts. We also have this wise part in us and many wise parts. So we can actually activate those parts as well and ask them for guidance. Our mind is so powerful. We can get access to all of it. And we are all wounded little children or babies as well as enlightened ones. So maybe next time when you're trying to make a decision, you can ask yourself, what would my enlightened self do? Or what would that old wise woman inside me do? What would my 80-year-old self do? And anything that your creativity comes up with. So take another deep breath in and out. And whenever you're ready, you can blink your eyes open. And if you feel called to, you can write down whatever came up. Sometimes people feel it's fresh in their heads and then they forget. So maybe just write down a few keywords. And thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing this masterclass, going deeper and deeper into my own psyche, into my own heart and my own emotions. I've learned so much over the last week, deepened my knowledge, and it's been so much pleasure to share with you. And thank you once again for all your emails and messages. And I feel so touched. And if you feel called to do this deep inner work together, then I really invite you to join Homecoming. It's kind of all the concepts and tools and practices that I've learned that's been so effective over the last 10 years that I've also applied and worked with so many clients. So it's been tested and tried, and it's the most effective tools. There's nothing in that program that I've not used myself and don't continue using. So it's not you just go through the journey and that's it. Like, these tools are so empowering and you can use them to move through anything in life. Everything will be fine. It's already fine. You're doing great. Beautiful. I assume that's your future self said. That's what she said. Okay, beautiful. Thank you. So thank you, everybody. And as I said, I have extended the price of 333 until tomorrow, 6 p.m., just because I just wanted more people from the community to join it. So if you feel called, if you're still on the fence, then that's your invitation. If you have any questions, feel free to message me or email me, and that will be an absolute pleasure to have you in the program. We've got, I think, 65, maybe a bit more now, people joined. So yeah, so you are also welcome. Or if it's not the right time, then sometime in the future. There's no rush. Soul knows, the soul follows its guidance. All right. So thank you once again, everybody. It's been a pleasure. And I hope to see you, whether in the homecoming program or some other future masterclasses, on social media, or somewhere in the world. Who knows? So thank you, thank you, thank you. And lots of love. Bye.